So thanks for joining us for this, one of the last sessions of this AI for Good Global Summit. As you know, today is the AI Standards Exchange Day. So like really a focus on AI standardization. And we wanted to bring one very important topic on the agenda, and this is the one of embodied intelligence and telecommunication infrastructures. Today we'll be discussing AI systems that have a physical presence, such as service robots, autonomous vehicles, drones, and assistive machines. Probably you have been around the exhibition area here at the summit, and you have seen incredible solutions, over 100 cutting-edge demos. So we want to move now from seeing those demonstrations to a standardization and regulation. These systems are already being deployed in many use cases. We're going to explore some of them here today, really briefly, on healthcare, education, logistics, public safety, and they are transforming truly how human and robots interact in our daily lives. These systems rely heavily on advanced telecommunication networks to operate safely, efficiently, and autonomously. And that includes, of course, low latency, reliable connectivity, secure data transfer, and multimodal communication capabilities. But as adoption grows, the need for shared standards grows as well together to ensure that these systems can scale across sectors and operate in a secure, interoperable environment. Today we'll explore four different subjects. So the discussion is going to go along through these four areas. The first one is what embodied intelligence means in practical terms, because probably many of you are not familiar with this term. What technical challenges and use cases are emerging, where standardization gaps are, and finally, how we can work together, especially under ITU and the UN umbrella, to close those gaps. So today I'm really delighted to have a very distinguished set of panelists here with us today. So we have Selma Sabanovic. She's the professor of informatics and cognitive science at Indiana University. We have then Noah Luo. He's the chair of ITUT Study Group 21. We have Yuki Long, Sino-Swiss CEO, representative of Unitree Robotics here in Switzerland. We have as well with us Patricia Shaw, CEO of Beyond Reach Consulting Limited. We have as well with us Abhishek Gupta, CEO of OpenDroid Robotics. And finally, we have Kai Wei. He is the director of the AI Institute of the China Academy of Information and Communication Technologies. So with that, I will start with the first question. So what is embodied intelligence? And because we want to be fully aligned with this concept, how you define embodied intelligence and what it makes it different from traditional AI or automation. Do you have any examples of your compelling examples of your current work? So would you maybe like to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Actually, we have several debate on the definition of embodied intelligence in both in ITU Study Group 21 and the Chinese community of the intelligent robotics. I will bring this one of the version from the Chinese community here for your reference. In a formal document drafted by the Chinese industry of AI industry alliance, they define the embodied AI like this: an intelligent system that interact with the environment through physical entities such as robotics, capable of environmental perception, information cognition, autonomous decision-making, and action execution, and able to achieve intelligence enhancement and action adaptation through experimental feedback. So I think there are three key differences from traditional digital intelligence, like ChatGPT. The first differentiator is the physical carrier embodiment. The embodied AI depends on the tangible hardware, where capabilities are defined by the physical constraints, certainly. So unlike the traditional AI, commonly constrained by computer and data, embodied AI operates within boundaries set by the carrier's physical parameters, like robotics arms, workspace, sensor, FOV, or motor torque. Yeah. And the second big difference is the perception action loop. So real-time carrier decision making under physical laws is a very key characteristics of the embodied AI. The traditional AI processes static data, while the embodied AI execute many second scale environmental feedback, and strategy update and action operate, and also the state change in the cycle, requiring carrier reasoning. This is the second different. The last difference, I think, is in reversible action consequences. Physical consequences in enforcement is one of the key. Output directly alert physical assets rather than generating digital symbols like the LLM. So unlike reversible digital outputs, action trigger is in revocable consequences. So that's the main three differences between the traditional digitalized AI as embodied AI.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe Patricia, would you like to add something on this definition provided, or any of the panelists?
Yeah, I would only say that what we're seeing with embodied AI is, depending on its encasement, there are interesting interplays for human-machine interfaces as well. Yeah. So it's not just about the product that you're creating, the encasement of what you're creating, and the kind of high-tech spec of it, but it's also about how it's then interacting with its environment, its operational environment, which is us humans. And that can vary from context to context, application domain to application domain, and therefore there needs a greater level of sensitivity and real-life understanding of what is necessary for that particular application. So how embodied AI would work in a hospital setting may well be different from in a care home, in the home setting, and vice versa, then out and about in a wider environment as well.
Yeah. Maybe Selma, you would like to go next?
Yeah, I have a quick comment in terms of, so I work on, just for you to know, on social robots and human-robot interaction. And so I think one interesting thing about embodied AI, aside from the machine's capability to kind of read cues and act in the physical environment, is that when they're in human environments, they're also, I think, inherently social, even if the application is not necessarily social. So the body of the robot, or I often look at robots, but the body of the device can actually mean certain things to people. So we can think of, when we think about robots, you might think of I don't know if you have a Roomba, which is a little vacuum cleaner, the way that it moves means certain things. If it comes closer to you or further from you, how fast it does this. The appearance of the robot can really make a big difference if it looks more human-like, if it looks pet-like. So the physicality itself can be an important affordance for people in terms of how the machine may be able to interact with them and what they might be able to do with it. We maybe trust the machines to do certain things or act in certain ways, or have certain functions based on how they look. So if, let's say Paro, who is the robot seal here, maybe we wouldn't expect Paro to give us information on where best to vaccinate people, like they were talking about in the last one, but perhaps a more humanoid-looking robot might seem like it's more capable in those terms. So yeah, often in social robotics and these kind of human-robot interaction scenarios, we also think about how humans might perceive the physicality and how that can be an important cue, both to learn from humans, but also to kind of give certain messages to humans as well and communicate.
And I'm just going to add back on that, actually, obviously with a legal background, but more pertinently thinking about gender and discrimination, but not kind of pulling on that at the moment, is that the fact that the embodiment actually matters. And that's a bit of a challenge for us as well, in whether it's a genuine desire to embrace that social surrounding, to embrace friendliness as an interface or nurturing as an interface. More consideration does need to be gone into whether these should be made in human likeness first and foremost, and if they are made in human likeness, whether they should be made in any kind of gendered likeness. And so that I would like to us to think about in terms of the embodied intelligence, because there are certain stereotypes and bias that gets embedded right from the get-go, and we find this problematic particularly as women.
That's excellent. So with this, I think we got quite some strong foundation. So I would like to move to really look into the use cases and technical challenges when it comes to telecom infrastructure. So I would like to ask a question to Abhishek. Your company is deploy, and we have seen here in the conference, like embodied systems. So from your experience, what are the biggest technical challenges or infrastructure barriers you face, things like latency, connectivity handoff, bandwidth, or safety concerns?
Thanks, Guillaume. One of the things that we have started to observe, and we are Open Droids, we are an open source robotics company. We have created single and dual arm robots. And one of the things that we have started to realize, and we are very, very conscious of the embodied aspect of robotics, is latency, as Guillaume points out, latency, interconnectivity, actual connectivity issues, bandwidth, becomes a critical and very relevant aspect of embodied AI. I'll talk from the practical aspect of us leveraging VR and teleoperation, because that's a significant way of getting to that unsupervised functionality of robots in the future, because we will be able to aggregate and collect data at a large scale once we do that through VR and teleoperation. So that's where issues like bandwidth and connectivity come into play. Let's talk about latency first. What we have observed physically is if we are operating across continents for one of our robots, where there's a teleoperator in one part of the world, let's say in India, and then our robot is stationed in US or somewhere in Switzerland, we see, unless it is fully optimized, there could be latency issues. Of course, barring the bandwidth, it could be as much as up to 2 to 3 seconds. In what that practically means is that if you actually move your arm, the robotic arm, it has to be perceived in a manner that you're doing something in a 3-second delay. So those things become very, very exponential when it comes into the robotics ecosystem. Now, with respect to bandwidth, what we have traditionally observed is, because when we are operating in the US, what we are seeing is that up to 100 Mbps speeds is a good parameter that reduces the latency and improves upon the connectivity. And of course, the safety aspect is extremely relevant and significant, because right now we are operating the robots in and around human beings. We don't have any standardized protocols or regulations right now in place on how robots will be interacting with humans in the future. So that is also one of the aspects. Right now our operators are mostly our engineers, and they are very socially conscious, but in the future that is going to be a concern as well.
Completely. So maybe Yuki, from your experience in your domain with the robots that you're deploying, how these concerns are affecting you?
Well, actually, we have many concerns because my focus market is right here, located in Switzerland. the center of Europe. You know, Europe is famous for regulations. So actually, we having a lot of concerns how we can really deploy the robots safely. And like you just mentioned, the regulation is something comes afterwards. Right now, we are more focusing on the POC prototype with innovation centers, and we are co-developing trustworthy solutions.
Yeah.
So right now, we are more in the lab research phase, and then we're going to bring it into the scenario of industry. And still, we have many obstacles there because the CE compliance into European market is not really for most of the manufacturers. I would say it's a step-by-step strategy until we can see really how the robots go into all the scenarios, even into the family use.
Okay, no, that's great. Maybe Selma, like in your human-robot interaction research, how does this quality of the telecommunication infrastructure relate to the work you do, and how this affects people's experience and trust, especially in this field of social robotics?
Yeah, so I think the themes of lag and accessibility are relevant there as well. I would kind of additionally maybe point to the fact that, I think robots are still very, technology heavy, very high in terms of requirements for having cloud access and all kinds of things. And this makes their usability in a broader geographical sense or in rural areas, places that do not have as much accessibility, quite limited. I think in some cases these can be, the places that need the robots the most. So yesterday we had a talk by Michelle Williams about using, robots, telepresent robots in various places, and you definitely need to kind of think about that from the beginning in design, and I don't think we're doing that quite yet. Another concern might be control that users have over the robots. So I think when we talk to users, if there's a lot of things that are happening in the cloud, and of course that's great for robot learning, it's great for updating, it's great for having more functions that can be, directly on the robot itself in terms of compute and those kinds of things. But then there are always questions about privacy. Where is the data going? Who has access to it? How secure is it? And also control that people have of their own robots. Recently, there was the case of Moxie, which was a robot that was used by kids. And the company went under, but everything was on the cloud. And so the minute that the company stopped working, the robots were basically dead within, a very short time period without people knowing. And this can be very psychologically impactful for users. So I think these kind of issues of privacy, control, et cetera, also relate back to the telecommunications infrastructure.
Completely. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to that because one of the things where I felt there were gaps as well is actually on those telecoms challenges to do with the security of the machine, so the robotic itself, the infrastructure and the interface between the two, which you've mentioned, but end to end, from beginning concept and inception right through to decommissioning, and really understanding what actually happens with the data, what happens with the insight, what happens with the inference. Not least because the socio-dynamic you've mentioned as well, which is going to be astronomical for kids. I can't imagine that. And but as we've also seen with smart meters, tracker devices, smart home devices, TVs, these things can be very data leaky as well. Yep. And so we need to really get to the problem of not just privacy, but security, and also the fact that these things can be particularly hackable, particularly when the machines are collecting and processing and learning insight and inference that could be very sensitive, particularly if these are in healthcare settings or caring for elderly or infirm people, or in partner, as we heard with some of the other talks, if these have computer-brain interfaces, these could be collecting brain waves as well. And so there could be some, not only just very significantly personally identifiable information, but this could be biometric information, things that could be a very unique identifier to a person of one, including things like eye tracking, facial expressions, skin depressions, and sweat and other haptic feedback. So if you've got a robotic that's going to be optimized to you, and you've got it in your home, and you want to be sure that that's only being used for you and not going to be hackable or otherwise leaking your very private data, we need to make sure that that's standardized and those challenges are met end to end in the infrastructure and with the machine and the machine-human to interaction as well.
Yeah, completely. So I think right now I would like us to take a step back and look at the standards landscape as a whole. And I don't know how many of you know that ITU is actually a standard-setting organization in the UN, and we develop technical standards to support modern communications. And I think here what we would like to explore is how in this work that happens at the ITU through the different study groups, where basically it's the groups where a standardization takes place in a membership-driven and contribution-based manner, how these technical discussions happen, and what is going to be maybe the future into these discussions when it comes to embodied intelligence. So to Noah, I think, so I would like to ask you from the study group 21, which is one of the study groups at the ITU, where do you think study group 21 can play a role in supporting this development of embodied intelligence systems?
Okay, thank you very much. First, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and dear fellow panelists. Guillaume, it's a good question. I think it's not possible to give you a very complete answer within 5 minutes. I will do my best. Also, I try to explain terms to describe the way we work in plain English so people will understand. I think, the first half of the discussions was very successful, which lays the solid foundation for moving into the standardization discussion. I heard a lot of critical issues have been raised technically, regulatory. For example, suppose we have a very good regulatory policy, legal system in place to implement. We still need the support from underneath, which will support the underneath. I think standardization and deployable standardization in industry can support this. For us, because we are more focused on the multimedia in general, more and more data on the internet is multimedia in nature, and when we talk about embodied intelligence, you cannot avoid the multimedia, video, audio, image, and multimodal communication. That opens a wide avenue for things we can do, but we need to do it step by step. To recognize and identify the gap is the first step. We need, gather the inputs from industry, from academia, from consultation company, from startup. So a good opportunity that may provide is we can use a framework provided by AI for Good. Why not make a serial webinar in the future? We continuously, iteratively get inputs from industry that will help us to identify the gap. But in my view, now there are several huge gaps. For example, we don't have the very clear definition, workable definition. It's a scenario. This is the first level. The second level, from a technical point of view, from a component point of view, what are the useful technical components we can use and the building block need to be clearly defined. Then comes up, we will have the system level, step by step. So if you are interested in the future standardization roadmap, I suggest you read recently article post on the ACM web page, which provides an overview of the landscape. But anyway, I think Guillaume told me we have Patricia who has encyclopedia knowledge about the landscape. So I think I stop here. 5 minutes is quite quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. So now I would like to move to Kai. So when it comes to like agent-level service models, are we missing some of them? Are we missing taxonomy standards or performance benchmarks when it comes to these embodied intelligence systems?
Yeah, the answer is yes, definitely. Go back to if you go back to your first question, the definition of embodiment. I think this is one thread we need to discuss under in the SDOs like ITU. Besides this, we are facing many challenges which we can use standardization as instruments to solve this problem. Because, for example, currently, all of the embodied AI companies is rushing to integrate the LLM or VLM or VLA to the robotics physical devices. So there are very many technical challenges and regulatory challenges. For example, cognitive physical alignment and training data acquisition and real to sim gap. How to narrow the real to sim gap, because we don't have many training data from the real world. So we need to simulation to synthetic data, but there's some gap between the synthetic data and the real-time environment. So we need to get to narrow the gap between the simulation and the real world.
Yeah.
So that's the other standardization need. And also interoperability between the physical body and the brain. The large language model or large vision action model. So also the safety and security issues we need to solve. So ITU could play a very vital role in the standard setting on the AI, embodied AI society. So actually, I think a question, slide group 21, chaired by Ms. Law, is already have some work ongoing. For example, one work item named Requirements and Framework for Embodied Artificial Intelligence System was initiated last plenary of study group 2021, I think in the January this year. They will that work item, that international standard will define the comprehensive capability of embodied AI framework and to establish evaluation metrics across many domains. For example, perception, decision making, and execution, interaction, and safety also. So I think that will address some of the challenges we need the standardization to narrow the gap. But I think substantial work remains for the future, and we welcome the participation and cooperation from all of the stakeholders. I have 10 years experience participating in ITU work. So my team dedicated on the evaluation benchmark on the AI system. To your question, I think benchmarking is very critical standard into setting, because benchmark is can play a compass when we define the requirements we want to set the training goal and set the barriers into the market. So it is very critical. Currently, some academic institutions proposed some kind of benchmark, like Stanford University, Tsinghua University has also published some kind of benchmark from the academia perspective. But as Madam Loon said, for the customers from the industry have their needs. So we need in the future we need to accommodate the real world requirements into this kind of application-oriented benchmark for AI, embodied AI, to driven the direction of the AI, embodied AI into large-scale production. Because the embedded AI right now, we don't see any very large application use cases in real world production. So I think it is in a very early stage. So in this stage, if we simultaneously talking about the standard setting, it is a right time to take this action. Yeah.
Maybe thank you for this. Any reactions from our panelists? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like standards that we've got in this space are a bit like an onion that we're having to peel off. We've got the technical standards about the inside of a robotic. We've got the technical standards required for the interface, the outside of the robotic. We've got the software requirement and the AI requirement that's in that robotic. There'll be standards of all these, many of which will be technical, many of which will be looking to fulfill some kind of product safety legislation or trying to have clinical assurance in a healthcare setting. But what we're now finding as well is this, because of the embodiedness of these AIs, we've also got to think about the form of the user interface and what that's doing for us and what that's doing to us, which I think is bringing about a whole set of socio-technical standards, and dare I say what's been said over the last couple of days, enviro-socio-technical standards, thinking about the environmental impacts other than just to people but to planet. But in terms of the people, because of the hyper-personalization that we're seeing, because of the multimodality of these embodied AIs, what we're seeing is that we can learn lessons from what we've been seeing in the generative AIs and social media content recommendation system space as well. So there's not a kind of a gap completely of standards. There are some standards in this space. So it's kind of, the question is, how do we beg, borrow and steal from them? And that means there has already been a lot to be done, that has been done in the AI standards space. So I want to commend all that's been done by ITU, CENELEC, IEEE, IEC in this space, and some of the national standards bodies. And particularly there's been a lot, as we all know, concerning Europe itself and the EU AI Act, and particularly for the protection of health, safety and fundamental rights. But this is just a start, particularly when we're now thinking about embodied AI. But there are some fantastic published standards and some to be published out there. I will just give a shout out to some of them, if you're not aware, that are in this socio-technical space. IEEE had done an awful lot of work around ethically aligned design, which resulted in a series of standards and a certification series called IEEE Certified. And also, so some of these have resulted in things like the ISO IEC 247487000 in 2022, which was value-based engineering. There was another one, 7001, which was to do with transparency, and another one to do with algorithmic bias in 7003. But we've got some really interesting ones you'd never think that be AI standards to do with human well-being. That's 7010, IEEE 7010. We've also got ethically driven digital nudging, and that's 7008. And we've got 7014 from 2024 that was on ethical considerations in emulated empathy. So if we're going to interact with these bots day in, day out, so these machines, we need to be getting the standards right and ready so that they're applicable to this space. There are some other standards bodies in this space who are working, but they're not so well known. XRSI, they look at artificial, augmented reality and extended reality standards, but I think there is also a lot to be learned from that space because they focus on that all-important data governance that I mentioned earlier on. And but because I've mentioned all these standards bodies and the fact that there's so much going on in this space, I feel this urges us on to think about what does good collaboration and the future of standardization look like.
Yeah, please, Noah.
Okay. Okay. So a few more words about standardization. I think, Patricia provides a very good overview of what's going on, and probably we need like people to understand, in some details how standardization really works, because we want to get them involved. We want to get RB's company involved, Yuki's company involved. We have over 60 robotic-related companies this time for excellent demonstration and presentation. So I think in the early stage, collection of inputs, needs, requirements are very critical. However, on the other hand, standardization follow a round after round approach, iterative approach. It doesn't mean now if we don't have enough inputs, we just stop here waiting and waiting. We take the iterative approach, just like Kai said. Exciting news is the first framework for embodied intelligence is already on the way. We hope we can release it maybe in 1 year or 1 year's half time. But at the same time, we really ask the industry, the general population to show their support, to show their interest in our work, and then probably more inputs can be collected, and the consultation company can always give us guidance in the developing process. So we hope we can do something. Like Patricia mentioned, a Chinese idiom say, everybody, no matter how important they think he is, actually he is a single drop of a big ocean. We say the 沧海一粟，沧海一滴水. Each organization has its strengths, but has a weakness. Such collaboration within the framework, WSC, world standardization, consolidation, and the lower level coordination will be definitely necessary, essential for us to achieve something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Noah. I don't know if Selma or some of our colleagues would like to add something else on this specific topic. No, yeah. One question because I know that at ITUT there has been some work on, for example, autonomous delivery vehicles, how they interact with each other when they are deployed, like in the urban environment. What is the status with this kind of standards? Is there, because in these moments, like this brings again like this public concern. So what is the status of this set of standards when it comes to deploying robotics in maybe like the urban spaces? How these robots can interact with each other? Is there any frameworks that are already in place? Any of the panelists would like to answer this question?
I personally don't know of any particular frameworks right now that are in place, and I guess this is a work in progress. I have these esteemed panelists, and I got to know a lot while understanding how you guys are doing things, and I realized that these standardizations will happen in the coming times, and that will actually, I think it is going to. The interoperability and the standardization is going to add a lot of value to every single organization, because with that it boosts business and robotics in general. I talk from the robotics side because that's what we do, but with interoperability and standardization, with the frameworks that you talk about, it will enhance every single organization to get to a point where it will become it will start commoditizing a lot of equipment that we are creating, because it will be better governance, better laws, more smoothness and efficiency into the system, and that will bring down the parts of the cost and of the components and the parts involved, and I think that will be beneficial for all. So some form of standardization, interoperability and frameworks are absolutely essential, and as we go along into the future, I believe there will be many more that will be coming in.
Salma, please go ahead.
Something that comes to mind also, you were mentioning, potentially different autonomous vehicles or different robots interacting with each other, but I think the question is also how do they interact with other kinds of technologies that we have, because in research, we often use, so the robot somehow communicates with a smartwatch or with your phone or with something else in the environment that's collecting data, and those kinds of things work together. So I think more thinking of these robotic or embodied intelligence systems as part of a larger network of technologies and socio-technical systems that we're working in. I think that's the part that maybe we haven't kind of delved into quite as much yet.
Exactly. So I think now we would like to move to the next part of the discussion. So how do you see the future in terms of collaboration? What's next? And what would it take to create these international standards for safety, interoperability, and system integration, and how we can collaborate with each other? And if we take a screenshot of this moment and we move to the next summit in 2026, how this is going to change? What is going to change this next year in terms of a standardization and future collaboration in this field? Please, Noah.
Okay, so I try to be the first to answer this very good question. So the essence for standardization, to make it a success, it must depend on very good collaboration, coordination among different organizations, different entities. Yes, so I try not give people the impression standardization on the embodied intelligence is purely technical. Actually, we have a lot of work dedicated to non-technical aspect. So it actually is about the interaction between the physical entities, any intelligence agent with its environment. So it must learn from the human how human interacts with the environment and look after the benefits, the safety, well-being of the human beings when we deploy the embodied intelligence. So in this sense, we think, let me say again, the coordination among the three big organizations making standards, that's the first step. But also we need to broaden our view, reach out to other organizations, WHO, LLO, how our technology will benefit millions people who are in need, 100 million people who are in need, people in their daily life, in the workspace, whatever. So I think we also work on human factor, accessibility, and the digital health. All these things can combine to give us some strengths in collaboration. We anticipate AI for good can provide a good platform, leveling ground, try to get everyone join. This is our dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Trish, you
Yeah,
go ahead.
so I was going to say, as someone who works across multiple standards bodies, I think businesses that I see are only interested really in having one playbook. And so I think it's absolutely essential that we collaborate, not least because we need to work more, operate more efficiently, not duplicate effort, and really utilise people's intellectual capital and time quickly. Because as we've heard on many panels, the standardisation process is not a quick one to find consensus and to make sure it's applicable for the industry which we're working towards. But also because this is something that's truly global, we need to have truly global voices. We make sure that we have the right stakeholders in the room, multi-stakeholders, so we've got a level playing field, but also interdisciplinary, because as I've mentioned, this is a socio-technical or even environmental socio-technical technology. So we need to be thinking about who we have in the room when we are collaborating between standard bodies. And I would like to say that in that international collaboration and in the intersectional, interdisciplinary conversation, we need to think about law, human rights, as well as the technical people from AI, the socio and sociologists and psychologists in this world, because of this new era that we're entering. And I think particularly with the standards, they are becoming more tricky. I'm working on the EU Act standards, where we're trying to put in ex-ante measures to not only protect, but also to preserve and promote human rights. And when we talk human rights, we're talking privacy here, we're talking dignity, we're talking the ability to ensure health, we're talking about children's rights. So these are not things that are too foreign for us to really bring into the room, but this is the new era of standards, I believe, and this not only human-centered, human controllable computing space that we're entering into, but this one that could potentially, where we need standards, we really need standards, where regulation is potentially lacking, to future-proof against the detrimental and so effects that potentially could happen and harm to people, but also so that we can really truly hone in on what the benefits are and that we can maximize and optimize on them as well for both populations and planet.
Any final comments from it? Yeah, please.
I had a quick one, which was just to also really reach out to communities of potential users and very broadly, maybe outside of the typical, geographic, socio-demographic, age, even age-related kind of groups that we work with, and seeing the youth side this year here was really super exciting. And so I think having ways of, talking about the realistic abilities and constraints of these systems with a much broader population of folks and communities will be really important going forward.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, please go ahead, Kai.
I think we need to do standardization work in parallel with pre-standardization work.
Yeah.
In parallel. Alongside with what we have done doing in Start Group 21 to discuss the standard, I suggest to continue this kind of discussion more inclusively to make some pre-standardization discussion. I think last TSEC meeting, CICT actually bring a contribution, suggests TSEC, the ITUT's management team to set up a focus group to do such kind of pre-standardization discussion more openly, because the standardization work is member-based, like Galen said. We need to open our door to the more broader communities to get them engaged and identify top priorities, which kind of challenges we need to put standard in place, and to provide advisory recommendations to the real standardization track. So I suggest for the future we can continue this kind of workshop like this name in the name of AI for good, online or physically, to make this pre-standardization inclusive discussion continue. More concretely, I'm discussing with Chairman Law to organize a workshop co-located with next study group 21 meeting in October.
Excellent.
So if it was decided, I'm very welcome all of you panelists and all the audience to join us to continue this kind of collaboration in the future. Yeah.
This is excellent. I think you would like to intervene?
Just,
okay.
One last comment is that exactly Weikai and Salma made some brilliant suggestions. I would just like to open that to the emerging as well as the mature companies that are out there in the market today with respect to AI and robotics. They should be part of these study groups as well, because they are, in certain ways, they are experts too, right? Apart from administration, which is the ITU, the ISOs of the world, we need the public representation. And these are the people who are actually changing the game when it comes to AI and robotics.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure here the colleagues are going to invite all the different companies present at the summit, which are many. So I think it's going to be an excellent discussion. So I think,
I just want to
wrap up
acknowledge that there are some experts in this audience. So I mentioned an IEEE standard earlier on empathy. One of the experts, Professor Andy McStay, is in the corner there. So please go and see him afterwards. And on children's rights, I know another expert from Five Rights who's in the room over here, Ansgar Kerner. So I just want to acknowledge that we aren't the only experts here in standardization. Academia and the children's rights audience are also here present. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Trish. And we have just 3 minutes, but we would like to open the floor for the audience. Just one question or two max. Yeah, please go ahead. Maybe the sir here at the front.
Yes, thank you. Very good presentation panel. So I'm Terry Jansen, AI for Good 2, a nonprofit in Florida, and we hear talk about the billions of agents that'll be working in the near future, and so we have some standards coming out even for inter-agent communications, like the model context protocol for accessing data. We'll have to have protocols for inter-agent dialogue. And then the issue comes up, and this is kind of a theme here, is that some of these agents will be good actors and some will be bad actors. And so now we have to have means by which we establish trust and reliability, reputation, and then we have reference architectures for this, where we could be, looking at what is a trustworthy, reliable architecture for these billions of agents to be using in their interoperability. They'll be communicating at nano speeds. So I just thought I'd introduce that to the panel and maybe get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Your question is very good. Actually, we we discussed this topic in the morning in other room about agentic AI, safety and security. The idea about that workshop, I propose to create such kind of credit for the agents to evaluate the level of the trustworthy of a single agent. Because in the future, every agent will have an identity, and also we can bound this kind of credit into this identity, and we can add some metadata to score the level of the trustees of that bad actor, good actor, and if that agent is based on a very strong foundation model, it can be a higher factor of the trust. For example, so we can maybe we can set a framework to assess the level of the trust of the single agent for the future. And like people, we have social credit. So maybe.
Okay, okay. Last question, because they are saying to me like no more time. So, yeah, please.
Yeah. Hello, Marek Janowski from the Czech mission here. Thank you very much for this interesting conversation. As far as the ITU and also the work of TSEC that you mentioned, Mr. Wei, and I'm actually glad you did. We would really appreciate if you, at your next TSEC, you were also active in helping with the human rights-based approach that's going to be discussed at the TSEC, because you can bring this very specific and practical angle on how best to basically merge the two worlds, which in my view still are far away from each other, in defining some kind of a good guardrails for the standards we need so much. And I think ITU can be a super model in bringing this as one of the first standard setting organizations to some sort of good sort of base. So I just wanted to invite you by this also to be collaborative with the member states, with the contributors, and to help with the very practical ways in the various study groups that you're representing and working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with this, we finalize this session. Thank you to our distinguished panelists for this excellent discussion. And yeah, we're going to stay in touch for more into this embodied AI field. There's going to be a lot of evolution this next year. So stay tuned with us. And yeah, I think we have one last session to wrap up this amazing frontier stage programming that has lasted 4 days with over 50 sessions. And now, thanks to our panelists, and we're going to move to the last discussion on mobility for good. Thank you very much. Thank you.